everybody, it's Romania Black. We only have 3 weeks more of Seraph of the End for now. What? I just realized that today. I was like, okay, so we're going to look at volumes 23 and 24, which is chapters 95 through 102. And I was like, and then next week, we'll be looking at volumes 25 and 26, which are chapters 103 to 110. And then volume 27 is chapters 111 to 114. And right now, they're only on chapters 115, 116, and 117 is coming out. So, what? So I'm almost caught up with Seraph at the End. I can't believe that I'm almost caught up. I'm like, oh crap. So yeah, so I'm going to do this week and then next week. And then the following week we'll have one volume, which will be volume 27, chapters 110 through 114. And then I'll wait around and then I'll start a new series and we'll be waiting until the contents of volume 28 gets released, which should be in like a couple months. So this fall, but I'm like, I'm almost caught up with y'all. Holy cow. So I am not caught up with the light novels. I have not started the third novel yet. I just haven't had time. I am going to do a video about the light novels, the Gurren Ichinose Catastrophe at 16 light novels, and then Gurren Ichinose Resurrection at 19. I'm going to be reading those two. There's 2 volumes of that as well. So once I get all of those light novels read, I am going to do a video about it. It'll be this fall, probably around September when I get to it, when I get to having it all done. Probably late August, early September when I have that video out. But yeah, holy cow. Things have gotten bonkers. I had to bring Whiteboard Coon out last time because Mika is dead and becoming a demon. Although if you look at this cover on here, he has really beautiful blue eyes. So I'm like, at least his blue eyes are coming back. But I'm like, what? And we see his ears are pointy and he has horns. I'm like, what's happening? This show... It's just this series is getting bonkers, and we're getting explanations of kind of the process of how things work between becoming human, becoming a vampire, becoming a demon, and how angels are the only things that aren't quite totally meshing in yet, but we're getting there. So it's crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah. But yeah, we're going to read these chapters and find out what the heck is going on and just go from there and see what happens. So we'll just roll with it, right? So I'm pretty excited to see what happens in volumes 23 and 24. I hope you all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. I've been ready. We're going to dive right in. We're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. What? The sad thing is that we're finally getting to the point in this series where we are starting to get things unraveling and we're starting to get explanations. We're starting to get things coming out of what's going on. We're finally getting to like the heart of the matter of what this whole thing with these demons are, with the angel. Well, the angel side is still a mystery, but we're getting more all around the demons and vampires to the point where I'm like, okay, well, they start as convoluted and complex as things are getting. I feel like we're getting more out of it and we're getting more to Shikamadoji, old Siga Madu's plan. But then I realize that I'm almost caught up and I'm like, are you all struggling with me? Am I going to be struggling with you all to get like the volume to volume content? I feel like we're getting to like the heart of the problem of all this. But man, Mika or Michaela, so that is the problem that we have to face with our dear sweet Mika. So let's think here. Michaela is kind of the center of all this. Michaela, aka Mika, we know that he is Shikamadu's son. And we know that he's called the King of Demons. Of course he is. Alright. Makes sense. But for all intents and purposes, Mika is dead, sadly. Or at least we think that Mika is dead. But is he? Because that's the sad thing. I'm like, okay, well, this Michaela is not Mika. It's the demon that might be at the center of Mika, that might be where he's from, but it's not the Mika we know and follow throughout the story. But maybe it is, because even Michaela has a love for you. So I don't know. It's just the idea of turning him into cursed gear. On the one hand, I was like, that means that he'll never become human again, right? Because which he's dead. So essentially that plan is out of here anyway. But I'm like, so Gurren's plan, so Gurren and Maharu's plan was to turn Michaela into cursed gear. Okay. That would maybe make sense for Cruel to be on board with, because if we give the cursed gear of Michaela to Yu, then Yu is going to get rid of Ashura. And Cruel would probably be on board with that, right? Cruel would probably be like, okay, sure, yeah. But I don't know if that's the case, because then you have Gurren, who has Maharu inside of him, as well as Noya. So can you have multiple demons inside of you? I feel like that'd be a problem. So I don't know. But then Noya, it's mainly Noya and Gurren, and Maharu is just... But Maharu established herself that she's not a normal demon because she was born that way. So she's not normal. But the only good thing out of all of this is that we see Mika with blue eyes again. That's the one good thing out of this. I'm going to take a picture of it. That we have Mika with his blue eyes. But it doesn't feel like Mika right now. This Demon King feels like the original form. This feels like the original. But I want my Mika back. And so that's the sad part, is that I don't know if we're going to get Mika back. That's the sad thing. I don't know. But yeah, so Mika feels like he's like, I have to find a human and devour their desires because I'm a demon. And he says, I'm thirsty. Okay. So I want to establish a few things about, we get some, there's a lot of parallels here. And I think that's kind of the point the story is making of how messed up this all is that we're all humans, demons. It's all one and the same. So we have the idea that vampires, I'm going to put vampires over here. Vampires thirst for human blood. And without that, they become demons. Okay. And then demons thirst for human desires. Okay. And if they don't get that, then they are powerless without desires. Okay. So establish that. For the record, Cruel is queen. I love Cruel. She's wonderful. She can do no wrong. I may want to cosplay as her at some point in her shark hoodie because I freaking love that drip on her. It's the best outfit she's wore this entire time. But for the record, this volume, these two volumes had some of my favorite moments so far in this series, but then some of my least favorite moments. So it was kind of a mixed bag. The whole storyline with drunken Shinoa and Mitsuba, it's fine. The only funny part about that is at the end when they're all hungover and Yoichi's like when they throw up on Cruel, if this entire storyline was just to get to them throwing up on Cruel, I will forgive the mangaka for that, because that oddly enough was absolutely hilarious and perfect. And I was like, okay, no, I'm on board with that. I wasn't so much with them groping each other while they're drunk, but if the entire scenario was getting them to throw up on Cruel so she could get into that awesome outfit and have her hair like down in like wet pigtails, I'm fine with it. So then we touch base on Kimazuki, who has his sister hidden in this like little storage unit to keep her safe, right? And so he's like, you'll be better in no time. I'm like, she's dead, dude. And so they're fighting to strengthen their demons. At first I was like, why are they fighting? But they're doing it to strengthen their demons so they can use them later. And so then poor Yoichi's like, these two girls are groping themselves in front of me. I don't know what to do. I guess I'll drink. I guess I'll drink this alcoholic cola. Maybe I'll drink two and it was all a mistake. And so then we get like to Kimazuki and his problem. That Kimazuki is very similar to Kuretto in that he hides behind a lot of barriers of logic and he doesn't let himself like let loose. So the demons, we established that it's the desires that they need have to be things that involve greed and selfishness. That's what they need to feed off of. Not, and I'm put mid cap, not family and love. No. That is what they don't desire. That's their weakness. So they want you to be selfish because that just fuels them, right? It's ties into that. And so Kisekio convinces Kimazuki that he doesn't really care about his sister or his friends. He just wants to win. He wants to be powerful for himself so that Yu doesn't keep winning. He can actually win a battle for once. And Kimazuki gives into it, and that allows, and he starts to cry and breaks down, and that allows Kisekio to go into him, kind of like Yu does at the very end with Mika. So then, yeah, and Yu's just like, oh, hey, you've got multiple coffins. Wow. So the establishment of multiple coffins was hinted at right here from the start. And the idea that Kisekio and then can travel in between these coffins. I'm like, what the heck? So, again, let me reiterate what we learned in the last volume is that demons are like spirits. They're not, they don't have a physical form really anymore. They're just spirits, right? Roaming around possessing different people, right? And possessing items like the cursed gear. That's the whole point, is to trap them inside the cursed gear. So the whole point is to, if we make vampires into demons that we can trap in objects that humans can channel, then they can use that to defeat the vampires. So it's just a big circle of nonsense. That's basically it. So the problem is if you don't, there has to be that cursed gear object is the link, because when humans just tried to possess demons, the demons oftentimes could overpower them. But if you had that object there in the middle, it creates some separation between you and the demon to where you can control them easier. So that's kind of the thing. But you're just using it to defeat what became the demons that you possessed in the first place. So it's like, and then angels are somewhere in that mess, but I feel like the author's like, we need to worry about the demons now. We'll worry about the angels later. So yeah, then they go to attack Cruel, and it's absolutely hilarious. But the thing that the demons can all communicate to one another, and that they've gotten their memories back. Okay. So the demons. So basically, Michaela awakening. His awakening with the first has given memories back to the black demons. So basically what we can assume is that when their memories were tampered with and sealed, when they were sealed in the cursed gear, and the first was kind of possessed by the Hiragi family all those years ago, and now now those memories have come back since they've awakened. Okay. Man, but Queen Cruel, chapter 96 is great. I freaking love this chapter where they just throw up on her. I'm like, what, girl? And she just leaps out the window to go take a shower. I'm like, oh my God. It's absolutely amazing. And Yoichi he's just passed out. It's that whole scene there is one of my favorites of this whole manga. She's like, why me? And then she shows back up. God, I love her hoodie. I want it now. I need it. If I could have that wig and cosplay as her, I'm way too tall to be Cruel, but I could. God, the danger do not touch, and it's a shark hoodie. I need that hoodie. I wanted to make it, and just, God, it's so good. She's just like, I'm done. Cruel is fantastic. She's like, you mortals bow before me. I love that our queen is just, and I like Cruel's character a lot in this, because she's like, who do you think I am? Like, I am a queen. Like, a vampire's rank is aside. She starts explaining things. And I love that Kimazuki is like, she could kill us if she wanted to. And she's like, I like this Kimazuki guy. He knows what's up. He's the smartest one of the group. But what I like about Cruel is that she's like, I will explain to you questions that need to be answered. She's like, I'm going to give you all the knowledge you need to know, and we're going to start from here. So she, unlike Gurren, unlike the other characters that keep our main force in the dark, she's like, no, you guys need to know what's going on. This is important. And she's like, my brother, his true name is Ashura Tepes. I love it. And she's like, you all are utter fools other than Kimazuki. And I love that she just takes charge and she's like, here we go. Now, the one thing about this I'm not crazy about is Shinoa liking you. I was like, that's the one part I'm like, really? I don't know. You and Mika are such a ship in this that when they talked about him becoming the cursed gear, I was like, but I feel like that it's sort of a love triangle, like Shinya and you and Mika are like a love triangle, like Gurren, or Shinya, Gurren, and Maharu are a love triangle like Shinoa, you, and Mika. Except Shinoa is Shinya, and you is Gurren, and Mika is Maharu. And what's going to happen is that Mika is going to be tied to you, and Shinoa is going to be like, but I love you. And he's going to be like, but I love this sword that's inside of me. So that's what I feel like it's going to. But I don't ship Shinoa and you at all. I like them as friends. And I feel like she's only tapping into this, her loving you to suppress Siga Madu. But I could be wrong. But anyway, so poor you, she's like, what parent raised you? And I was like, well, his parents both died when he was a kid. But Yu admits, he's like, well, Gurren kind of raised me. And Gurren's parenting style is not good. As I go through this, Gurren's parenting style is not good. But he's like, you just got to get stronger. And he's like, I'm going to get stronger because they killed Mika. So I'm sure Gurren sees a lot of himself in you, and that's kind of the point. But I like that Yu's whole thing is he's like, I just want to protect Mika. That's really all he cares about. He's very selfless. Yu's whole thing is he just wants to get strong enough that he can protect somebody he cares for. Right? And like I love Cruel saying, if I'd raised them, none of them would have turned out to be this remotely stupid. God, I love Cruel. She's so good. She's great in this. And then she goes back to her raising Mika. And she's like, he was doing the same thing for the same reasons. Both Mika and Yu were both growing stronger because of each other. And I'm going to need to get some more markers soon. Get some more markers soon. But yeah, they are both growing strong for each other, which is freaking adorable. I love it so much. But yeah, and so she's like, why should I tell you anything? Like, stop fooling around and show me that you sincerely want to learn things. And then Yu is like, okay, this is as serious as I can get. He's like kowtowing down to her, being like, I'm sorry, being like, he's my family. He is more important to me than my own life. I need to know how to save him. I beg of you. It's like, yeah. So I'm like, Shinoa, even if you love you, I feel like Yu is only ever going to love Shinoa as a friend, but it's going to be unrequited. I feel like Shinoa and Shinya are in the same boats, that it's like the unrequited love. It's like, maybe. At least that's how I'm seeing it. And so I like that Cruel, she's like, you want it, he has it just as badly, this love, this intense love. She's like, is this what made you choose him, brother? And we don't get anything from Ashura, right? We don't get anything. And so she's like, do any of you understand what's going on? And none of them do. And so she's like, okay, but we find out later that Cruel in all of this. So I'm going to actually put this over here. That Cruel has been working with Maharu and Gurren. All right? With their goal to seal Mika and give it to you. All right? So that's one side of it. And then we have Siga Madu, who is working with the demons to repossess his son, Michaela. Everybody wants Mika. Everybody wants our boy Mika. And so that's where we're at right now. That's where we are at in this. And she's like, how much do all of you know? And they don't know a lot. They really, which is the sad thing, is that our crew does not know much of anything. And she's like, wow. She's like, wow, you guys have been in the dark this whole time. And so we finally get some answers about Maharu. We finally get some answers about Maharu working with Cruel. Like, I've not read the other 2 novels yet, so I'm sure it's going to come up in those, but we finally get some answers. I'm like, thank you. And so the chapter 97 about sisters, that chapter, holy crap, about Maharu. So we get her and Shinoa's backstory, which has kind of been like, we've gotten breadcrumbs about it most of this series, but we finally get it expanded upon in this. The idea that Shinoa and her sister were born with a demon embedded inside of them, and they were trying to get it to act up and activate itself. And Maharu wanting to... And so their mom basically died after Shinoa was born because she went crazy. Surprising no one. But just Shinoa's attitude that she really is just in her sister's shadow. But that's a good thing. That means she doesn't get experimented on as much. Maharu gets more, but she hates it. She wants to... Both of them want to protect each other as sisters, right? And so not only is... They basically have part of the demon of the first inside of them, but Maharu... And Maharu's mannerisms, where she's all sing-songy, Shinoa does that exact same thing now. She inherited that from her sister, like to hide her actual emotions about things. And so... Shinoa being so disappointed in herself and so like emotionless. And the funny thing is they're siblings, but they are so different. And that's so true for siblings. My brother and I are total opposites. And Maharu and Shinoa are kind of that way too. And again, what makes me think Shinoa is like Shinya is in the ring when they're battling. Shinoa talks to Shinya a lot. And Shinya laments that he wants to know what kind of guy Gurren is like for Maharu to love him so much. And I feel like that attitude towards Gurren with Shinya is kind of how Shinoa is towards Mika with you. So it's interesting. Anytime we get more Shinya in this series is great because Shinya is one of my favorites. I love him a lot. But yeah, Maharu, she's just really strong. She's been experimented on all this time. And then we get, and the thing of it is, we find out towards the very end that Maharu's whole thing is that she's never had control of her life. Her life has always been decided for her, so she is using all of the experiments on her to turn the tables to where she's in control of her own life. And it's like, damn. Right? So yeah. And so she finally confesses about Gurren. And she tells... And so she calls Shinoa Shishi. And she's like, Shishi, which is funny because that's the name of the demon Shi. That's Siga Madu. So it's like, oh my god. But yeah. So basically... At this point, Maharu starts telling her about, like, when she hits puberty, when her period starts, like, all of her, like, when she hits puberty, all of those emotions are going to bubble to the surface, and she's like, you need to repress those, because if they find out that demon Yu is coming out, they're going to experiment on you even more, and it could kill us. And she's like, we're already guinea pigs, we can't let them know, how we feel. And so Maharu, because she's a genius, she's found ways to suppress all this, but she's worried for Shinoa. And so Maharu's solution to all this is she's like, I'm just going to traumatize you and beat the shit out of you. And to the point where if you are tortured, you will not confess anything because I will have already put you through much worse. So, you know what? Maharu and Gurren are kind of birds of a feather. They both have very similar strategies of getting people to do things. And I'm like, maybe you two are really meant for each other. But as messed up as it is, it's just Maharu trying to save Shinoa. Trying to be like, no, you don't understand. They're going to kill you. And I'm going to try to stop that from happening. And Shinoa's like, but you're in love. You're a normal girl. What will happen to you if you're all alone without me? And Maharu's like... And I like that Shinoa knows that she's lying. That whole genius thing is just a lie. But... she says that whenever, your period hits, it's harder to control your demon. And she's like, she wonders if Maharu's already possessed by the demon and not in control. And she's like, no, I'm in control of myself. She says she's been experimenting on herself in secret to make sure that she keeps control. But she ends up becoming a cursed gear anyway, and Gurenki ends up possessing her, so... And then just like in the novel, she tells Shinoa here, I'm going to cut out the demon and eat it, take it onto myself. And you can be normal. And she's like, the world isn't kind. If I let myself fall in love, I can't protect my baby sister. But she ends up letting herself fall in love with Guren, right? So it's complicated, right? And then, she's like, I love you and goodbye. So I'm not sure exactly what she injects her with. I thought it might have been a suppressant, but I'm not sure if that's when she ate the demon, if she weakened her enough to eat the demon and go. But then we cut to Maharu meeting up with Cruel and talking to her about everything. God, these chapters were great. And so we cut from that. Of course, this series goes back and forth. It won't just give us the full explanation. It keeps going back and forth. And so we get the King's Chambers, which is that world where he's watching Yu and Mika having the conversation and kind of controlling this little domain. So, which is funny because the demons in the other worlds have all tried to possess the humans and have tried to possess them by traumatizing them. And in this case, no, he wants to keep them safe and have them in their own little world. And he's like, they're so precious. I have to protect this place for them. Which is not what the other demons have done. So that's curious. But see, this is the part where I'm like, I feel like the real Mika isn't there because he's like, who are these two? I don't know. I don't have a clue. But for some reason, they're precious and I want to protect them. I like that his little coat that he has with the ears, it looks like little cat ears. His horns look like little cat ears, and it has like the little thing on the end looks like a tail. It reminds me of that Sushi from Bungo Stray Dogs, but the outfit of it just looks like a little cat outfit. It's super cute. And he's like, I want to make sure no one else sneaks in. So the idea of them using the coffins as a transport thing for the demons is really interesting. I like Kasekio can use that as a transport in between like the demons' realms. That's interesting. But Ashura's betrayal. I was like, I had really thought that him and you were making progress, and despite the circumstances, we're all getting along, and he ditches you like that to go help Kasekio. He's like, nope, we've got a mission, his memories are back, so there's a reason for all this, but this series, and some of you have said in the comments, this series makes you really question who is doing what for what reason, and who's saving the world, who's not saving the world, who's destroying it, what is right, what is wrong. This series wants you to not know. Because, in these chapters here, you kind of feel for Ashura and Gekuen and them, and then you realize, no, wait, they're going to try to kidnap Mika and take his soul over and take him back to the first, so that's not good. Or is it, right? No, like he's absorbed in his own world of pleasures, but maintaining that world's going to require a boatload of human desire. And that is a problem. If he goes about possessing people at random, searching for desires, it'll be difficult to track him and we could lose him entirely. So yeah, they're like, we need to control him and get him centralized to one person. And so yeah, it's crazy. And then Yoichi, he just takes Gekuen just takes the power from Yoichi. And Azure Amaru is like, wow, that's all you need to do to get the power? You're on good terms with your human. He's like, I got lucky and found a decent guy. What, are you not that close with yours? And then, of course, there's like you in full frame being like, we're best friends. And he's like, good question. I'm like, how is it a good question? I was like, because you're betraying him. So, yeah, here's the thing. The demons, to help, I'm going to just put Siga Madu, to help him, their job was to possess humans and take their desires. And Kasekio and Gekuen don't seem to really care about Yoichi, and they don't seem to really care about Yoichi and Kimazuki. They're just like, we got lucky and found somebody decent that's going to give us power, so good for us. But Azure Amaru seems like maybe he has gotten attached to you, and so that makes this a little bit harder a mission to go through with. But once Shika starts talking, he seems like he's totally on board with it. So I'm like, but And so then he's like, I should devour the invader's desires first. So yeah, so that's the thing. It's interesting that the world that Michaela wants to keep alive is this cute little quaint world where everything with Mika is okay. But at the same time, in order to keep that world active, he has to eat human desires. Or has to eat the desires of something. So that's interesting. So the demons also, they have, you know, maybe their own desires that they keep fed. But that's funny because love and family is something that doesn't give them power. So it's interesting. Meanwhile, Gurren and Maharu are trying to get stuff done. And Gurren, I love Gurren's determined face where he's like, she's like, before that happens, we have to find Mika and convert him into cursed gear. And she's like taking something that's suppressing the cells of the first that were injected into both me and Shinoa. And he's like, we're up against demons and other monsters. How can we handle it? I like that Gurren, despite being up against all the odds, he's like, he's smiling despite it. He's like, man, we're about to get our asses kicked. But he's like really excited about it. Because that's Gurren. Gurren has always had his back up against the wall and has always had everything go horribly for him, and he still pushes through regardless. I'm like, why not? But so we finally get the whole plan that we need to, once Shikama Doji will be able to locate him. So this whole time, Shika has been trying to locate Mika, and that's what they've been trying to keep from happening. They wanted to keep his son, Michaela, from being found. Okay. And so they want to turn him into cursed gear so that he can be with a human with you, and then he won't be able to access him. I'm like, okay. And she's like, you had your precious brother stolen by the first, and I had my life stolen away from me and turned upside down. So she's like, when I was born with the body that was implanted with the first cells. Okay. And so she's like, and I love that she's like, my life has always been calculated, and she's like, I'm going to die as a sacrifice at the moment the upcoming calamity destroys the world. It's already been decided. Don't you think that's unfair? And I love that Cruel's like, I don't care. I just want my brother. And she's like, your brother's being used as well. And she's like, I just want to know where he is. And she's like, I have to suppress the first. And I'd like our pact to remain secret so we can carry on without him knowing. And so, yeah, she injects herself with it to keep him at bay. But here's the thing. She tells Cruel that she has to become a vampire in order for all this to work. So that's how this all... So basically, Maharu, who had the first in her trying to possess, she ended up going to Cruel and had Cruel turn her to a vampire, and then she became a demon of her own from there and went into the cursed gear that Gurren has. That makes sense. That all makes sense, sure. So yeah, but the whole thing was, she was like, I don't want Shika to take over my body and for him to be this demon possessing me. If I'm possessed by a demon, if I become a demon, she wanted to become her own demon. That's the thing. She wanted to become, she didn't want Noya inside of her. She didn't want none of that jazz. She wanted to become her own demon so that she didn't have to answer to anybody but herself. And it's like, okay. And so she's like, and I like that she turns to Shinoa. She's like, is this still part of your plan? She's like, your sister didn't want this demon overhearing, so, or didn't want Siga Madu overhearing. And so I love the idea that she figures out that Shinoa still has that angel inside of her. Or not angel, vampire, but still has the angel wings. It's all so confusing. And it's like, Michaela, I'm trying to save him. He's my precious child. I'm the only true ally that you have. So yeah, from here on in, the loyalties in this are all bonkers because Cruel's working with Gurren and Maharu, but Gurren and Maharu killed Yoichi's sister as well as Mirai, and so there's that business we're going to talk about in a minute. But then Shinoa is possessed by the first, and the first says they just want Michaela back to save him. And so who's trying to save the world? Who's trying to destroy it? everybody, who can you trust? It's all up in the air at this point, which is crazy. And then Gurren and Maharu show up because why not? They're like, we're turning Michaela into cursed gear and attaching him to you before the first can get to him. That just, I guess so. And Yu's like, well, okay. And so then the first contacts Ashura and says you have to capture Michaela's soul before they do. It's like, what the fudge? Yeah, these last chapters are great. Volume 24, chapters 99 through 102, volume 24 is great. I love volume 24. It's wonderful. It's great. This whole thing about mortal love. I love that Shinoa is like, oh, well, I'm a clueless girl, so I'm supposed to be in love, right? So all human girls are supposed to yearn for love. Did you know that? And she looks just like Shikama Doji. It's basically, that's the form, right? You look terrible, she. And I love that she's like, I really love Yuichiro. I love him a lot. And so she wants this demon to like take control of her so it can fight Shikama Doji back. And I love that we see that she like gets possessed, has like the little single horn and everything. The curse that has ruined my life. I'll let this desire run wild and overtake you. Okay. And I feel like maybe we see Shikama Doji in that past because it has the singular horn. Maybe that's the demon that we see in the past. But the demon is able to suppress Shikamaru enough to where they can work on building this circle. And so we come back to Gurren and them, and Gurren's like, we don't have time, we have to do this. And Yu's like, we're turning Mika into cursed gear? What? He's like, oh, you're doing this to save him, right? And he's like, yes, we'll save Michaela and Shinoa. And he's like, oh, awesome. And Kimazuki's like, you're an idiot. Kimazuki's like, you moron. Why are you letting him convince you that easily? He killed Michaela, remember? And now he says we have to turn him into cursed gear to save him. He's like, how does that count as saving him? He's just going to be a tool that we use. And it's like, well, you're not entirely wrong, but Gurren's like, no. And I'm like, so then Kimazuki and Yoichi bring up a pretty good point. They're like, you insist we're going to save everybody by resurrecting them, but how does that work? Does that mean you knew these people had to die all along and you've planned all of this? And Yoichi's like, did you plan my sister's death? And he's like, what if I did? It's like, then Yoichi's like, I'm going to kill you. And Cruel's like, okay, somebody has to be the voice of reason in this madness, in this chaos. She's like, it might as well be me. She's like, if the first awakens, everything's over. She's like, so whatever we have to do, let's just do it. And then Maharu's like, no, this will all work out. My incredibly gifted sister will silence them. I like that Maharu's like, no, we're going to let my sister Shinoa talk to them and silence them because she's good at that sort of thing. I'm like, I love that she tells her it's her gifted sister. And they're like, are you okay, Shinoa? And then she's like, I'm most definitely. It's almost like she really is in love with you, but she's too busy keeping Shikama Doji at bay. And I love that she sees his hand on hers. And the thing of it is, I think Shinoa knows that Yu doesn't love her that way, that Yu loves Mika, but she's just like, damn it, it's unrequited, right? And so Kimazuki's like, so seriously, is all this according to plan? Are you saying we're all just guinea pigs and you've been laughing at us the whole time? And Shinoa's like, no, everybody's a guinea pig in this. Gurren, Shinoa, everyone is Shikama Doji's guinea pig. And everything that's happened in the world has precisely happened according to his plan. And I love how she explains it. She's like, but today that changed. Michaela has come back because Mika, sacrificed himself to save you. His plans hit a snag. And so she's like, I suspect Lieutenant Colonel and my sister have been planning for this moment without letting anybody know. And Gurren's like, maybe? I feel like Gurren's like in that moment, like, did we plan for this to happen? And Maharu's like, you figured it out. So all this has been leading to this, and Gurren's like, you guys are just going to have to believe us. And Kimazuki's like, I want to believe you. And then Gurren goes into the spiel about the catastrophe being his fault. And I really want to get to that part of the novels to see how his blaming himself and talking about his weakness and his desire ties to it. And I like that as he's yelling at them, Maharu like grabs his arm. She's like she's supporting him. And he says that Shinya and him were supposed to die together. That it was my chance to die. If we could just die without becoming demons, without getting obsessed with our powers, that was how we were going to win. But he's like, we couldn't do it. Oh. And Maharu's face where she's actually sad. I feel like Maharu's like, So I really want to ship Gurren and Shinya together so much. And that's so sad, like her saying that they couldn't die together and that it still led to all of this going down. He's like, yeah, I did kill your families and I ruined the world. And it's all I can do not to dance to Shikama Doji's tune. But he says he wants to resurrect all of humanity. And I'm like, how are we doing that without starting another? I was like, the last time you resurrected like 6 people, the world ended. So you gonna do it again? Okay, do they even want to come back? I'm like, and she's like, I did fall in love with a big dummy. And you, bless his heart, like there is a part of you that I'm like, Yu's like boundless optimism is great, but sometimes he's a little too much and he gets a little too dumb for me sometimes where he just like, it all goes over his head. I appreciate that about you, but at the same time, I'm like, I that's why I like Mika, I think a little more. He's a little more grounded. And so then we get the reveal that Shinoa has found out that Ajuramaru is an enemy working with Shikama Doji to capture Mika's soul. And Yu's like, huh? And Cruel's like, wait, what? My brother's helping the enemy? What? And I love that he goes into the other world and he's like, well, these look a lot like Kimizuki's coffins. I love that. He's just like, well, this is interesting. And then we cut to the battle scene that's happening inside of the mind palace of this demon Michaela. And that was in one chapter. Chapter 99 was great. And then, okay, the little tail on Michaela's thing, it makes a heart. It makes a heart. That's freaking cute. I'm going to take a picture of it. It's really adorable that we have his little heart tail there. Freaking cute. So yeah. So, and I like that Yu's like, I'm going to be really mad if you're working for the enemy as your I'm going to be really pissed if you lied about us being friends. And it seems like he did. But yeah. Which is funny because Ajuramaru, we just went through that whole backstory where he realized that Shikama Doji was bad. So what changed to make him want to work for him now? Now that they're demons, does he not have a choice? Can he control him since he's a demon? I feel like we're starting to get more and more explanation, but... So they go to make this spell circle. I did appreciate the callback to early on in the manga and early on in the anime where we established that Yu is not a good student and he didn't pay attention. Also, Yoichi didn't pay attention either. I did like the callback to the very beginning showing that Yu is kind of dumb and did not realize what was happening. That part was really good. I liked that a lot. That was great. But yeah, and so they end up making the circle and Maharu casts like all her little Fuda down. And she pulls out Michaela's sword, and that's what we're going to put the curse gear into. He's like, oh, that's Mika's sword. And Cruel's just dragging Shino as far away as she can so that if Shikama Doji wakes up, they'll at least have to walk more than 5 feet to find everybody. And so at this point, Shinoa's like, because Shinoa knows what it's like to have an older sibling that they care about, she's like, Azuramaru's your brother. So what happened in your past? What's going on between Ajuramaru and the first? What are they to each other? And we don't find that out yet. And I'm like, dang it. We're getting closer, though, I feel, to finding some answers. But the battle rages on, and Ajuramaru and the others fight little tiny baby Michaela, who looks absolutely adorable in this little demon form. And meanwhile, Michaela, while he's fighting Kasekyo and the others, Ajuramaru goes down to basically kill the happiness in Demon Mika's little world. To say, I'm going to rip your poor hearts to shreds. I'm like, Ajuramaru, you're not supposed to be like this. Sad days. My desire. Yeah, it shows you with his back to little tiny Mika. Little babe, that little demon looks like a little kid. It looks like what I'm assuming Shikamaru's son did when he died. So that's interesting. And so, but the thing about this is that this is all going on as Mika is turning into a demon. So the Mika that is in this the Mika that Ajuramaru is making kill the others in the dream is the Mika soul that has been around this entire series, right? And so it's so sad that he makes him just do it over and over again. And it draws back to Mika's memories and his fear that it was his fault that all of them died. And so that sucks. That I'm like, Ajuramaru, how dare you? And so he makes them go and kill all of them one by one. Meanwhile, you can hear Mika calling to him. And I love that expression that Gurren and them are like, he's like, I just heard Mika calling for me. And the look on Gurren and Maharu's face is amazing. Like, they're both like, what? That's not possible. Demons lose their memories when they're born. Mika can't remember him. And they're like, is it a trap? But the power of love, damn it. It's the power of love. You and Mika love each other so much that it's going beyond demons, right? Beyond it. And so they get you to go into the circle so that I like, again, the callback where Gurren's like, no matter how wrong it is, we always take care of family. Even if this is the wrong answer, we're going to save Michaela. So it's such a weird lesson in all of this that you have these humans that can turn into vampires or can turn into demons and get possessed by them. But their whole thing is that it's all for family, whether right or wrong, that we're doing it for each other. It's like the antithesis of the demons and the antithesis of the vampires, that they're doing it because the vampires and demons, they don't need anybody, and they don't, like, the vampires don't want to repopulate. They don't want there to be too many of them. The demons supposedly have no emotional attachments whatsoever. Neither do the vampires, but humans are like all emotions, and they're all pack animals, and like, we're doing it for each other no matter what. So it's kind of a weird message when they're like, even if this is the wrong answer and it destroys the world, we're still going to do it for ourselves anyway. And then Krul's like, this is stupid. like she's like, ugh, stupid. And they decide to do it anyway. And so and then I like that he says here, so Yu goes through it. He's like, so how do we get to Mika? And he's like, Mika's a demon. He's forgotten about you. And he's like, but he called to me. And Gurren's like, he's forgotten about you. You have to tell yourself that. It's like when you got Ajuramaru to submit to you. He's going to attack you. And if you lose, he'll possess you. And he's like, well, if he possesses me, isn't that a good thing? It'll mean he has a body again. He's like, but you'll disappear. Do you think Mika wants that? So if a demon possesses a human all the way, then the human side of them disappears for good. And he's like, do you think Michaela really wants to know that you're no longer alive? That you sacrificed yourself? Do you think Mika would want that? And Yu's like, no, I get it. He wouldn't. I'm glad that Yu gets serious in that moment. He's like, no. We take care of our family. And he's like, exactly. And you're part of that family too. So I like that Gurren in this moment says, do not be self-sacrificing on us. We don't want that. He's like, no, you're not going to sacrifice your body. That's not how this is going to go down. And then Shinoa, she's like, if you end up dying, and it's almost like she wanted to say, I love you, but she says, I'll cry instead. And Krul's just looking down at her like, you're pretty hopeless. But yeah, so they all do this big roundup where they're like, don't let yourself get possessed. They all put their hands in. Yoichi and Kimazuki are like, let's do this. And he's like, I'm going to go rescue Mika. He's like, I was stronger than I was before, and I have this big family who will be worried for me. I'm going to come save you. And then here we go. And then poor Mika, like, he's just blaming himself as he like stabs you there, saying it's all his fault. And so we don't get to see what happens with that Mika. We leave him there stabbing you in the vision, and we go back to Demon Michaela, who's just sitting there crying sad, saying, okay, we've won, now we can possess his soul, he's weakened. Let's take him back. And it's a parallel, right? You have at the same time that you have, you know, Kimazuki and Mitsuba and them having their hands over each other saying, okay, let's go save Mika. At the same time, you have the demons putting their hands over Mika about to save him. So the parallel there is really cool. But then Yu's like, why are you picking on Mika? Why are you doing this when I told you not to? And Azura's like, wait, what? And him like just ripping himself out of his body. I'm like, what is if I'm just the end of chapter 101 where Yu is jumping out of Ashiromaru's body to get to Mika, to Michaela. If you had told me when I ended season 1 of the anime that still was going to be something that was going to happen, I was like, what is going on? If you told me that this was going to be what I was going to see later on, I would have thought y'all were crazy. Just too much. Too much. Oh my god. And then chapter 102, the end of this volume, he's calling for me. Just where he's like, what did you jerks do to him, Mika? He's like, you made my friend cry! Even though he's like in demon form and is not, obviously not the same. It's like, oh my god. But yeah. So as Ashiromaru and him fight, he's like, what's wrong with you? I thought we were family. And they keep saying there are reasons. And I'm like, well then say them, damn it. He's like, explain them. You have 1 second. He's like, that's not enough. He's like, you're the enemy. He's like, no. He's like, I'm going to make your desires go berserk. And then he's like, no, you don't understand. My desire is to save Mika. He's like, nah, that's my greatest desire. And that's it. He's like, it's just to save Mika. He's like, that's a lie. And he's like, no, I'm going to save him. And then at this point, he's like, what are you scared of? He's like, I'm going to save Mika. And that shot of him with the horns, but with the angels behind him. He's like, I'm going to save Mika, so get out of my way. You can't stop me. And then he overpowers Ashiromaru and makes him become cursed gear. So that's the thing. So the humans can overpower the demons if they have that love and desire and strength to... That's kind of what Kisekio was trying to get Kimazuki to get away from, because if Kimazuki kept wanting to protect his sister and his friends, then it was going to overpower Kisekio, and Kisekio's like, oh, I don't want that. But yeah, Yu is like, no, my desire to protect my friend is stronger, so now you're going to give me power whether you like it or not. That is my greatest desire. And he made him turn into a cursed gear to control him. So it's like, okay, can be done. And then we see that Kisekio, so we go back to this, I'm assuming that the one demon there is she with the 1 horn, right? That's the one that's in Shinoa's scythe. And then we also see Shinya's there as well. So Shinya's demon is one of those that was trying to get to Michaela as well. Interesting. So it's Ashiromaru and Kisekio, and then she, and then also Byakumaru. So Shinya's still got a part to play in all this. I'm like, oh, I don't like it. Nope, not at all. And so the 2 demons, Kisekio and Gekuen, question whether this is something that Siga Madu could even have foreseen themselves. Saying, you'll gain no glory for this, there'll be no reward. But they agree to do it. And so, but Siga Madu says that to help me save the world from the catastrophe that looms that in the far future. So Siga Madu tells the demons that he's saving the world. What does that mean? How is that different from what happened in the present? So there's still questions unanswered. I want to know what they are. And so then we have the Dragon Ball Z Piccolo scenario where Gekuen's like, I'll buy you 10 minutes. And it's like, no, doesn't work at all. No. But here's the thing, he's like, my desires have gone completely berserk, and it feels good living purely for my desires. Let my heart shout the desire out loud. I'm saving Mika. So it's different though. He is in like total control in this moment, and it's of this desire to save someone he loves. So it's a completely different feeling than when he's doing it for selfish reasons. So that's interesting. There's something to that, which is cool. And so then the lightning cracks and he goes and fights Gekuen and like just wrecks the place to get to Mika. And then of course, after all these shonen attacks, coffins of chaos, stuff goes crazy. He barrels through all of them. He manages to get back into the coffin and manages to tell Kimazuki that Gekuen and Kiseki are their enemies. And Kimazuki hears and he's like, our demons are collaborating with Ashiromaru. And Guren's just like, the fudge? And Mahiru's like, oh, so that's how it is. I thought it was my idea to have nothing but black demons here. But that was part of his plan from the start. So Maharu's even like, wow, even I was being influenced by the first. The first one to gather all of the black demons together, but that was so they could all work together to get Mika. She's like, damn it, I was even being influenced and didn't realize it. And Yoichi's moment, where Yoichi is like, Gekko, this was not part of our deal. How could you hurt my family? And God, when he's like, when someone hurts my family, we have infinite desire, infinite greed. And he's like, and that gives us power over you. Oh my God. Yoichi in this moment, I feel like that whole setup from the beginning where we found out that Yoichi was not really a nice guy. He's just pretending to be. And then he's like, I don't care. I'm sick of your great causes. It's great. Because yeah, he's like, wait, we have a cause. We have reasons. He's like, no, my trust in you is shattered. You should have told me your reasons from the start, not wait until the last minute. He's like, the same goes for humans. He's like, you should know that. You've been eating my desires. Do you not know what I hate? And it's like, oh my God. Yoichi just popping off. I love it. I love it. He's like, I'll hear your reasons later, but you'll get no more desire from me. And he's like, ugh. And then, yeah. Meanwhile, while the two demons are being suppressed, Yu is like, my desires are going out of control. It hurts. I want to save Mika so badly. But he's like, you're here. You called for me, right? And then he gets to him. And he's like, whatever happens, everything's going to be fine. I'll save you. So the question is, as he's like dipping his hands into Mika to take control of him, the question is he going to boot Azurimaru out? Is he going to have both Azurimaru and him? I feel like, though, if he has Azurimaru still inside of him, that's a way for Siga Madu to get to them. But I don't know how that's going to work. So is he going to kick Azurimaru out to possess somebody else? Is that going to be a thing? Is he going to just take Mika? How's that going to work? I really want to read the next volume now, but I only have 3 volumes left before I'm caught up with you all, so dang it. I really want to find out, though. So, I've been able to hold myself back for, like, most of this series. I've been like, okay, I'll wait a week. I'll read the next volumes in a week. I'll watch the next episode in a week. But this is the first time I've been like, I really want to know what's going to happen. And it's right as I'm catching up, because of course it is. I'm like, ugh. So, yeah. There we are. Of course. And I've talked for a solid hour almost, but dang it. God, these chapters were really, really good. I really, really liked them. These chapters were great. And now I'm really excited. We only have 3 volumes left before we're caught up, but that's okay. We'll do it. It'll be fine. But yeah. So it's all just a big complicated web. But it's fine. So, without any manga spoilers, I am interested to know in your comments down below, like, what you think of all this bizarreness. Like, these 2 volumes are great. I liked volumes 23 and 24 a lot. They were a lot of fun, especially volume 24. Volume 24, wonderful. I liked it. It's probably one of my favorites so far is volume 24. I like it a lot. And so, yeah, so next week we'll do 25 and 26. And then after that we'll have 27, and then hopefully we won't have to wait too long for 28. But I'm going to be really sad because it's just getting so good. And now I'm like, of course it is. So I saw on Viz, which is where I'm watching it, that chapter 117 is going to be coming out here in like a week or so. So that'd be 15, 16, 17. And I feel like this chapter was 95, 96, 97, 98. And then 99, 100, 101, 102. So it's 4 chapters. So if we have 15, 16, 17, that means we may only have to wait like a month for volume 28 after we get caught up. So that's not too bad. Waiting a month. Maybe. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back really soon with more Seraph of the End. Bye.